Can you explain the judgment where you recently gave a judgment and absolved a white person who had put a black guy in a container?
No, the way I was trained, right from the start, when I came from the university, I never prosecuted. I missed that opportunity to prosecute. I was a magistrate immediately, right from the university. My train of mind is that you don't look at who is this. Is it a white person? Is it a black or whatever? You look at the facts and you interpret the law in accordance with what you believe is the correct position, regardless of whether it's a white or black. You don't look at the colors. Otherwise, a judicial officer who does that, then it can pose a danger to certain societies, because then you have also to preside over certain cases which may involve certain religious beliefs, and if you don't believe in this one, then you have to give judgment in favor of this one which you believe. You've just got to, all what you have to do as a judge is the ability to identify the issues from the facts given to you in civil trial matters, even including criminal matters for that matter. It's very difficult to evaluate evidence and come to the accurate decision. But you try your best with your experience to evaluate facts, and then once you have identified the issues, then you apply the law. You don't look at who is this, who represents who that, who is the plaintiff, who is the defendant. That you don't consider as a judicial officer. That's my view as a judicial officer anyway.
No, that's not the question. I want you to explain that issue where a white guy, you put a black guy in a container and there was nothing wrong. In your view, I hear what you are saying.
The issue was defamation in that case. We're not talking about putting a guy in the container and then find a judgment in that regard. No, that was not the issue. The issue was defamation by the newspaper, by the way, not the guy put in the container. That was the issue.
Now, as a judicial officer, it's always important to look at the law, but it is equally important to look at the people who appear before you may come from a very strong background. For instance, males can always dominate females, and whites can always have got a history of having dominated blacks. And to want to ignore all that this one comes from a position of authority, can be misleading at times.
I'm not too sure. You know, in my view, there are 10 commandments of a judicial officer, one of which is impartiality, one of which is independence, one of which is patience, one of which is prompt. There are 10 of them, which I have. I don't want to waste the time of this house. I'm sorry about that. So you don't look at who is bringing this, you look at the facts. Like I said, I'm not going to change that. You don't look at the background. That's something which you can apply, and maybe when you look at the, you'll excuse my language, maybe when it comes to say mitigation of sentence, you may look at the background. He stole bread. The background is such, they don't have food. They're living in shacks and so on. So he has committed an offense, but I don't have to send him to jail. Those are the factors you can look at, the background. Only when you're dealing with situations like that. When we talk civil matters, like the one you've just referred to, you don't look at that. You don't look at, what's your background? Where do you come from? Okay, if you come from a disadvantage, then I must give judgment in your favor. That's not how you apply the law. That's not how I understand the application of the law anyway.
But you just agreed that it is important to look at background, because without taking into consideration the background of where we come from, you might give a judgment which perpetuates the inequalities that we have been subjected to as a country. And therefore, it is permissible in law to look at the background. You just said that yourself.
Yes, I've told you under what circumstances, not in all cases. I've told you under what circumstances you look at the background. Even the criminal matters, you look at the situation, the nature of the offense committed by the person. You can't say because this man, he has murdered a person. Okay, he comes from a disadvantaged background, I can't sentence him to jail. No, you can't do that. So I'm telling you the circumstances under which you can look at the background.
But it will be
Otherwise, let me sorry to cut you. Otherwise, if you look at the background, you look at this, they say it's a criminal. There's a background, the previous convictions have now been handed up. The background of that is that this man has committed criminal offenses. You look at that, you take that into account, but that is after your finding of guilty. You don't look at it whilst before you make a finding on the issues, you see.
But the point I'm making, it is in the context of racism that in taking into consideration where our country comes from, you can't ignore the parties that appear before you, particularly in a matter that can perpetuate racism in this country. I'm not talking about the matter now that you dealt with. We're talking about, as a judicial officer, you can't act ignorant and adjudicate on a matter based only on the facts before you, neglecting the background of where we come from as a country.
That's not how I was trained. No, I act also in these divisions. None of the senior judges trained me in that way, that you must look at the background first before you decide the facts. No, that's not how I was trained. I was a magistrate for 15 years, 4 of which I was training magistrate myself in the whole country. So I never said to them, before you come to a decision in the matter, look at the background, ignore the facts. Look at the background. Oh, that one is a white, he was a racist. Okay, let me come to the facts. You were a racist, therefore, I'm giving judgment against you.